What we can also do is not just load a component directly from a known module. There is also a way to load a component from a module that is not currently imported. The way we do this is actually quite identical to before. The only difference is that I'm handing over the module when I'm creating the component, and the module has a component factory resolver. Those are the sort of the input statements that we had before, or like the declaration statements inside a module that we can use. But in this particular case, we're not taking the general approach. We're taking it from the specific module we are handing over. And from the type, we already know what declarations are inside. And from those declarations, by getting the component factory resolver, we sort of get all the component factories that are specific to this particular module we have inside the code. And with this, we are sort of independent of what code is already inside the project, and it allows us to dynamically at runtime load modules that we need. So everybody who's paying attention now sees that this is also sort of a certain danger, because it allows you to load data from modules that maybe we don't even provide, so foreign modules. If you're using this, you have to be quite sure that you just use sort of a fixed module reference and not sort of giving it in dynamically. It's a very good tool to load data from the server, so you don't have to sort of reload everything at every time. But you just have to make sure that it's your own server and the module that you actually know and care about. As an example, if you're giving in this by, a JSON file or something specific like that, you might run into difficulties and you don't want that. So you have to be a bit more careful. But in our specific example that we had before, there is also the possibility to give it a dynamic component from a submodule. And in our specific case, that's the one thing down here. Inside the dynamic component, that's the thing we have looked at before, there's also a module type, and you just have to give this in, and the system will load that. Now, before about Angular 9, when the Ivy renderer was introduced, you also had to go into the Angular JSON file. Where is it? Here. And you had to switch the AOT from true to false. AOT is the ahead of time compiling, and it sort of had difficulties to load modules that were not previously known. If you're switching the AOT from true to false, what it does is it puts the render module into the Angular build. So with switching this particular value, the size of your bundle increases by about 500 kilobytes, which is not good. But then with the Ivy render, things have changed, and it's not necessary anymore to do that. So if you're leaving AOT to true, the entire thing still works. And I can demonstrate that here. We had in the HTML, we added this particular section, and that's exactly what you're seeing inside your browser. What was also important before Angular 9 is that if you used the loader, the module loader, or just a dynamic component loader specifically, you not only had to use the declaration sections, but in here there's also a section called entry components, which by now is actually deprecated. And whatever dynamic component you wanted to use, you also had to place inside the entry components in order for it to work. But with the Ivy renderer, I think after Angular 9 or maybe 10, this is not needed anymore. Things got much simpler. And that's the reason why the entry component section inside the ng module is deprecated by now.